give this to my 9:30. Okay. Any questions for Arceline, I did call your name right at the very start, but you didn't answer, but I got you on the roll. No worries. I saw
Yeah.
your name, bro.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you mark me as here? I can't remember.
I did, Leia. Remember how I talked about your devil horns?
Yes. Oh, you marked me as here then? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I
Also,
have this
I was
ability.
the only one who sent a cat reel. Is that really true?
Yeah, you're the only one. I only got one cat reel. I was pretty disappointed.
That is really sad. I'm so sorry. I'll
Like
send you
haven't
more.
I brought my cats in and shown you Professor Phineas and Professor Ferb?
I sent one.
No, wait, no, you didn't.
I did. It was just like a picture of a cat with like music.
I'll have to check that later. I don't have any memory of that.
It's okay.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed my cat reel
I
because
enjoyed that was
I
fun.
love that one.
Anytime you guys want to send me a reel, send me a reel. That was fun. I had a good time looking at them. Thank you for I even had one person that did not send a reel at all, and I still gave them credit. So yeah. All right, so you have your history identifications midterm. Remember what that is. Real easy if you've been doing your identifications all along. If you've been doing your identifications all along and you're like, mine are phenomenal, you're going to copy and paste them in here. If you're like, I got a 4 and I'm willing to take a 2.5 or a 3, well, that's a gamble, but there will not be plagiarism for this one, okay? But if it was like, if you were getting like ones and twos on these, then you were, yeah, you were probably gonna get zeros on this. So don't copy and paste those then. Okay, but if you did a good job all along, submit those. Okay. If you're unsure of whether you got did well enough to get the 5 or the 4 or whatever, contact Jed Winkler. Send him a message. He's on Canvas. You can email, see it to us. You can email Jed Winkler and say, hey, will you review over me how you think I will do on the final? And he'll be willing to help you with that. Okay. I think we decided in this class that Jed would be the one that would grade them because you're familiar, you know what he's going to grade. So yeah, so we're gonna do that. Unless if anybody appeals beforehand, I will grade them. Okay. If anybody's like, no, I really want Scott. Thank you, Tuss. Look at that. Twizzlers. Love Twizzlers. Uh, okay. So that's what we have coming up. Um, you will be required to identify 9. So you have 19 identifications. So if you've done all the work all along, this is gonna be easy. If not, this is gonna be one of the worst midterms you could do. If you have not done a decent job all along, this is gonna be really hard. Feel free to edit the ones. Let's say you did a good job. Let's say you got 4 points on one and you want to edit, just edit it. Yeah. Okay. You can choose 10 of any of these. Look at all those you can choose from. Okay. All right. Give me just 1 second here. Sorry about the wait, guys. Oh, and don't forget about that CLA exam. Quick raise of hands. Who's done the CLA exam? That one that you have to go to there too. You have to go to the testing center to do. Got a couple. We got probably about 5 or 6,
When
maybe
is
even
that one
more.
due?
What's that again, Lauren?
When is that one due?
October 31st. All right. Good job. That should not, I've heard from most people that that's relatively easy, so that's good. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the legacy of the revolution. So we talked all about We talked all about all of the great leaders and stuff like that. Um, but what about the day after? What about the day after the revolution? Am I right? That is a harder part to understand. Is at what point can America continue to or start to govern itself? We all like to talk about how great our country is, but it had just won a war and it was just a little baby. It's just a little baby. You don't trust little babies to feed themselves. You need a mom or a dad, right? And so these little babies, separate for the first time, and Lord North, at the surrender of Cornwallis, said, "Oh God, it's all over." That's the sentiment, right? We have the displacement of the British from the colonies is one of the greatest events in American history, if not the greatest event. Under, horrible circumstances, horrible chances, they beat the greatest army in the world. Thanks to the Atlantic Ocean, thanks to home field advantage, thanks to more passionate leaders. Not better fighters, though. No, no way. Okay, here's our group of Americans that are going to forge our peace. Our peace with the British are going to be these men: John Jay, John Adams, Ben Franklin, Henry Lawrence, and William Temple Franklin, right? So they're going to play a major role in just what rights we gain first of all. So we get to the Treaty of Paris, and that's where Britain formally recognizes the independence of the United States. The U.S. borders go from the Atlantic Ocean, from the Great Lakes, all the way down to Florida. Remember, Florida is still operated by the Spanish, and only west to the Mississippi. After Mississippi, it belongs to anybody remember who borders on the west of the Mississippi at this point? Anyone? France, right? Remember New Orleans, the French or the New Orleans, the purchase, the can't remember the name of it. The Louisiana Purchase. There we go. The Louisiana Purchase. Yep. Here is a map. Here is the United States. That is what it looks like. There we go. Okay. Here is a quote from George Washington where he resigns his commission. So he says, I shall constantly bear in mind that as the sword was the last resort for the preservation of our liberties, so it ought to be the first to be laid aside when those liberties are firmly established. So he's the general, he has the great army. Why does he step down? Why doesn't he take control over America and become a king?
Because he wanted to not be a king because he's like, we just escaped from a king, so I don't want to become a king.
Yeah, like why the freak would we have kings when we just got out from under him? But remember, it's got to be pretty tempting for G Dubs. Am I right? He's kind of like, I could be king and think about all the money I could have. How do you not think that way? I'm sure that thought went by his mind because he did. Anybody else have any thoughts? Why did Washington not claim the monarchy or the kingship or anything like that? What do you think? What do you think, Brooke? Brooke Alger. What are your thoughts, Brooke?
I just think maybe he wanted to get away from that life. Kind of like what Maggie said, like he didn't want to like repeat history, I guess, and have
Yeah.
something awful happen again and like try something new and see if that would work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was an Enlightenment thinker. He believed that kings were wrong and that there should be some form of a republic and there should be consent of the governed, right? They should have to say, I am willingly allowing you to serve. You're not my master. You serve me. Am I right? And so George G. Dubs says, I don't want that. That's exact. So he's basically a man that backs up his ideals. That's pretty cool. Am I right? A man that backs up his ideals. We don't have very many of those anymore, do we? Sure as freak isn't Nathan Swap.
I back up my ideals.
I lost so much respect for this guy when he sent me that reel or that meme. So much respect for him.
That's crazy. How is that not backing up my ideals?
I don't know. All right, let's talk about here's George Washington more. George Washington is a true American hero. American hero. Is that the G.I. Joe theme song?
I think so.
Is it? G.I. Joe, American hero. G.I. Joe is there. That I found it. Yes. All right. Man, it's been a long time since I thought of G.I. Joe. Wow. Okay. Here are the costs of the war, right? Oh, oops. Here are some of the costs of the war. Oops. Gosh, dang it. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. There's human cost 50,000 American casualties. So that's quite a few, 20,000 British casualties. The financial cost, America, it cost 150 million. British Empire, 250 million pounds. France, $1.3 billion dollars. Who cares what sort of currency that is? We don't even care, France. You don't even care. You use the euro, okay? You don't have like a traditional dollar or a pound. You use the euro because your guys are weak. But think about how much the British Empire spends to try to preserve colonies. Does that tell us that, dang, these colonies were worth quite a bit, guys? These colonies were pretty dope. They were cash cows. The Britain was harvesting and taking so much of our property, so much of what we produced. And I think that that's a real sign of that. I think the fact that the British were able to pay 250, which is, substantially amount, a lot more now. Well, why were they willing to spend that much? So, yeah. Political legacies. We have the new constitutions. We have separation of powers. Who could tell me what the separation of powers in government is? What does that look like? What does the separation of powers look like?
Is it the separation between like states or colonies and the federal government?
Yeah, that's part of the separation of powers. That's right. Yeah. Another part of it is the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Gotta say judicial like that. Judicial. Those three, and they check each other, right? So if the president does something unconstitutional, what does the Supreme Court do? Nothing. They just let Trump do whatever the hell he wants. And like the most wild thing about this whole thing is like, but it's cool. Like everyone's like, it's cool. It's fine. It's cool. Bill of Rights. What does the Bill of Rights protect us? So the Bill of Rights protects us. Who does the Bill of Rights protect us from? One, each other, but there's more importantly, who? Who does the Bill of Rights protect us from?
It protects us from people who are trying to take advantage of us and treating us less than human.
Mhm. Yeah, that's part of it. That's definitely correct. What else? Who else does it protect us from? Or what else?
The government, maybe?
That's right. Who said that?
Addie? Me?
Addie?
I don't know.
Good job, Addie. That is exactly what it does. It protects us from the government. So that way, if a police or if a cop or a National Guard comes to your house, Addie, and is like, I'm going to sleep in your bed tonight, you can be like, actually, I have the Bill of Rights. It protects me from you. These are the importance behind the written laws. I can't tell you how important written laws are. Because let's say Chloe breaks the law. She murders someone. Let's say Levi breaks the law. He murders someone. But we don't like Levi because I don't know. Let's just say he's not as cool. And so we punish them harsher. Written law tends to eliminate or at least shrink that down quite a bit. I mean, look, if Trump breaks the law, he's going to get in a lot less trouble than I will, um but theoretically, the written law or the codification of law makes that a lot better. So, yep, good job. All right, at the time, voting is just white male suffrage. Yes, it was a good time to be a white male. Hey, guys, all my men, are you listening to me? Spencer, you listening to me? Nathan, you listening to me? Everyone? I can't see everyone's screen, but I'm just going to hope you're listening to me. White men have just given all their power up. We are the generation, like, especially you guys, we are the generation that we're just like, here, we don't need that power that we've held since we were like a first species. Yeah, I blame you guys. I blame you guys. Um, for giving up male power. Male power. I give your guys' age that. Paper ballots easy to forge, am I right? So if there's a lot of money that are favoring Democrats to win in that region, you sure as heck better bet that they will. They will win that election, right? Because paper ballots are easy to forge. It's easy to get people drunk. That no, like on voting day, everyone would come and you'd be like, "Here's some rum for you, bro," and they drink that. And then someone would grab them around the shoulder and said, "I have a Christmas ham for your family if you vote Republican," or whatever it was, like Whig or whatever. And the interplay between the political thing through bribery was just really quite remarkable. The political influence, almost as bad as how it is nowadays. It's worse nowadays, where those PACs, you can donate unlimited amounts of money to people. Do you think Chloe has as much say as me if I'm donating $1 billion to Republicans? Freak, no, she's not going to have a say. All right, so we have this idea of patriotism. Okay, let's have a little bit of a discussion here. You guys have been boring, okay? You guys have been boring today, so we're gonna have a discussion. Everyone, turn on your cameras. Turn on your cameras. Turn on your cameras. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for turning on your cameras. So, what is the difference between patriotism and nationalism? Okay. Let's go to Carissa. Carissa, you there? Yeah. Okay. Um, I want
Yeah.
you guys to pass. If you feel uncomfortable, please pass. But in your mind, what is the difference between nationalism and patriotism?
I'm not sure about nationalism, but I know patriotism is like you show outwardly that you honor your country
Hmm.
and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you show some sort of honor, respect. I love my country. I'm a patriot. I just love my country, okay? Now that's patriotic, right? There's nothing wrong with patriotism. Some sort of belief that my country's excellent, some sort of belief that I love my country, that sort of thing, right? So that's patriotism. When does it cross over to nationalism and nationalism is in fact bad?
Feel like nationalism is like the version of racism for countries, where like my
Yeah.
country is the greatest country, it's better than yours, your country's awful. Where like
Yeah.
as patriotism is, I love my country
Right.
compared to I'm better.
Right. Yeah. I think the way you put that so succinctly is really quite wonderful, Spencer. Great job. It's kind of the difference between I love my country. I think America's great. I could even say I love living here. I would rather live here than I would in Russia. However, it crosses into nationalism, as in America is the greatest. It does no wrong, and all the rest of the countries are pure shit. Okay? That's that's nationalism. And that is bad. That is really bad, guys. If you find yourself engaging in that sort of rhetoric, hopefully we can break that from you. Okay? I want you to be proud of your country. I want you to love America. But the second someone starts to protest against something they don't like about America, and you automatically revert to this super defensive mode, and you don't stop to think about the other side, that is nationalism. Okay? So I challenge you guys, if there is a protest you don't like, hey, I don't like this protest. I don't think it's very cool. At least look into it before you dismiss it. Don't be one of those people that's like, America doesn't do no wrong. I love America. You know, and you could, I use that example, but you don't have to be a Southern hick to be nationalistic. You can also be a Utah hick to be nationalist. I'm just joking. All my Utah hicks, I love you. I love my Utah hicks. I happen to be one. I moved here in sixth grade. I moved here in sixth grade, and I have become. They've Stacy, would you say I've been inherited to be a hick? Am I welcomed by the hicks? She's not responding to me. I don't know. All right, so we have education. There is a huge value on education here in America. Why do you think America welcomed education so strongly? Why do you think America did that? Anybody? Taylor, you there?
So people could be well informed
Well
for
informed. We
for
want a
like like
well-informed base.
yeah.
Okay, if we're gonna let everyone vote, or white males vote, if we're gonna let a bunch of people, just like ordinary average people, vote, well, we need them to be educated, right? That's how it used to be, not anymore. Now the conservatives and the Republican, or the Democrats and the Republicans, fight over uneducated people quite a bit. They don't like educated people anymore. And then it also relies on participation. You have to get out and vote. It's tiring. It's exhausting. Was anybody 18 years old at the last election and did not vote?
Yeah, I didn't vote last time.
See? See, guys, that's why you guys, let me in on something. Or I'm going to let you in on something. You're going to be alive for 80 years or more. I mean, you guys are going to be living until you're like 115. You guys, the policy that is being created now will affect the next 80 years of your life. It is so important that you guys get involved now and start to take an active role in the government and start to change the government from within. I'm a big fan of changing institutions from within as an operating cog rather than a revolutionary. I'm a big fan of that. So, I would argue that you guys need to get more involved. Start changing the way the government works. Make policies that are going to affect the next 80 years of America, not the next 10 weeks that I'm going to be alive and I want to become as rich as possible. All right. Another big thing our country was founded on was the notion of agrarianism. Anybody know what ag agrarian way of life is? The agrarian, there we go. The agrarian way of life. Anybody? What is the
Is it,
agrarian way of life? Go ahead.
sorry, it's like the principle of like owning property and land and kind of living off of it.
Yeah, yeah. It's you own your own land, you work the land with your own hands, you cultivate it, it grows, you have material, you produce from it. That's the agrarian lifestyle. And most of the people that were forming the government played to the agrarian lifestyle, that they wanted them to win the elections. They wanted, in fact, Thomas Jefferson had a word for the agrarian people. He would call his favorite people yeomen. The yeomen were agrarians, but they did something a little bit more. At home at night, they didn't just hang out with the family, they studied politics, they studied philosophy. Now, I don't know how many farmers you know, but I know quite a few, and not a single one of them studies philosophy, and the only ones that study political science are Fox News people. So no, that's not totally true. Not totally true. So I don't know. So that doesn't happen anymore. Jefferson saw this as kind of a romantic type element. Like, this is the way we want America to be, right? A big difference between what I want America to be and what America is becoming, right? You can't change what was, guys. Like, it's just not possible. But what you can do is somehow influence the way America is heading, right? And I think that the groups of people that try to sell you on going back to the old way, I think are always a little bit faulty. So the agrarian lifestyle was doomed to die. It was doomed to die. There was no way it was going to continue because it didn't allot for multiple generations of children working, you know? There is a finite amount of land. Not everyone can own land. And so he needed something a little bit else. Egalitarianism, the notion that we all are all equal, that's a big important part, is the egalitarianism. How are things equal? I have a friend that says, I'm not a feminist, I'm an egalitarian. I think he just hates women. You think so, Chloe? You think this guy just hates women? He goes out of his way to say, I'm not a feminist, I just am an egalitarian. I bet he hates women. All right, let's talk about our economical legacies. We move towards anybody, what form of economy do we have right now? What economic um, system process does America have right now?
It's not full capitalism. I think it's called monitored capitalism. But
Yeah, I mean, you could call it like corporatism, you could call it oligarchs, you could call it things like that. But at the root, if we were going to define it very broadly, we would say that America has a capitalist system. America, it rewards innovation, it rewards people producing the best product, those sort of things, right? Or at least theoretically. Theoretically, I'm not saying that that is true or not. You can make up your own decisions, but theoretically, that's what capitalism does for America, right? And capitalism led to a growth of industry unlike anything we've seen up until just recently with the AI revolution, right? The AI revolution is a technical revolution, just like rail lines, just like factory work, stuff like that. So it is good to know that it is pretty important. Nathan, what are you doing here? What are you doing, dude? You raising your
Nothing.
hand?
No, nothing.
All right.
Just spelling out cars.
Okay. Let's see. Who should we talk about? Let's talk about Republican motherhood. Okay. Does anybody feel like the mother made the majority of the decisions in their family? Majority of the decisions. Yeah. I mean, not all families, but in a lot of families, this was viewed as the notion of the Republican motherhood. Women, for the good of the country, acted in that way over their children, taught them Republican ideals. It was the wife or the mother's job. It was the mother's job to really truly educate these kids to be good American citizens. Now, moms are raising the worst kids that don't know anything about America. Am I right? Am I right, Lauren?
Yep, I blame it on Coco Melon.
Oh, that's yes, I like that. We're gonna blame Coco Melon. Why are we gonna blame Coco Melon, Lauren?
Um, well, I mean, it's also mostly the parents. They like to distract instead of actually parent. Like if your kid's
Mm,
throwing a tantrum, they like to put Coco Melon in front of them instead of
yeah.
actually like disciplining them or teaching them.
Without like facial, I would say interaction from the parent. It doesn't necessarily need to be discipline, but it needs to be like some form of like communication between parents. I agree with that. The act of using the television or the phone, especially, the phone is very bad as a form of a pacifier, has had dire consequences on our children's brains. Just dire consequences for anxiety and depression. Anybody have parents that just gave them a phone when they were little? And you need that, you still to this day need that dopamine?
My mom did not let us have a phone until we were 13, and it was a flip phone or a Gab phone starting off, and then you had to pay for your own iPhone.
Mm. Sounds like
My,
your mom knows what she's doing. Maggie.
that's just how she did it. Me and my older brother had both the flip phone and then switched to Gab phone, and then he bought his own iPhone, and I bought his old one from him.
I mean, think about it though. Think about it though. I'm giving a 10-year-old the sum of the entire universe is on my phone essentially. Everything that doesn't matter, everything that does matter, heartache, graphic images, beheading porn, rape. When I give my kid this phone and say, "Hey, go nuts," they can look at what. No, I'm not big to censor my kids. I don't like censoring my kids. But when you give them a phone that has access to the entire world when they're like 13 years old, you better believe they're going to be looking at some weird stuff. You better believe it. They're going to be looking at some weird freaking stuff. Anyway. All right, let's see what else do we need to talk about. We got our women's, love our women. Um, the slave trade was abolished in 1808. The slave trade was abolished in 1808. All right, guys, I am going to let you go. I appreciate you guys being here today. Um, love you guys. Send me more reels. Anytime you want to send me a reel, I will gladly take it. That boy. All right, love you guys. See you later.
Bye, Professor Billy.
Bye, Professor Billy.